course, at best of 3. And I gotta say that uThermal is actually a very similar player. He just wears a different coat. He wears the Terran pieces. In the top left here, putting the Alpha in Alpha X. This, the Zerg player, is RagnaroK.
And in the bottom right-hand side, 60% liquid, but 100% for this tournament, it is uThermal. Water, of course. Yeah.
Oh, because the human body, right? Ah, see, that was one of those. That was one of those. You're not smart enough. You need a certain level of IQ to understand this comedy kind of situation. My bad.
I really hope not. But 60% water. Come on, Maynard.
Okay, look, it's been. I'm a little bit older than a lot of people on this broadcast, and it's been a long time since high school. So I have, a bit of biology slipped through the mind. It's replaced by video game builds and how to speed run certain games. A lot of that information's been pushed aside. I'm sorry to say.
Plus, depending on how thermal he is, the water could have evaporated already. So
true, he might be down to 55.
55, we'll call it. Yeah.
Yeah.
More or less like his chances to win this series, perhaps. 55? You thinking?
I'd give him the edge. I would actually go back to his regular human body workup. I would say 60% for uThermal here, because I actually think that he's ever so slightly favored against RagnaroK. Actually, it's kind of hard to say, because the last time they played each other was literally this tournament last year. That was the last time they had a best of 3 against each other. So it's been a long time between drinks for these two players. uThermal's obviously had a lot of time in the think tank. He's brought up a very successful YouTube channel. He's got a lot of great builds out there, and also guides for Terran players that are going out there onto the ladder, hoping to meet their MMR dreams. And RagnaroK, he's also been doing the same thing. He's been making YouTube content as well for multiple builds, both through yeah, they've both been, it's a weird year, and we're all trying to make content and make ends meet for both sides, of course, without having as many events to go to. So both these players starting up YouTube channels. uThermal's has really blown up, though. I subbed to both of them, but it feels like, in the battle of the YouTubes, uThermal certainly with the edge.
Yeah, and I mean, he has Harstem also as a teammate who has been doing a lot of that himself, so I'm sure he takes some inspiration there. But yeah, uThermal, I mean, he's a brilliant individual, a brilliant player, so I am happy that he's making those guides. Unless, of course, I'm playing against one of his builds, in which case I do not enjoy it so much.
Well, Reaper coming in here for the early game TVD dance that we all know and love, of course. The Reaper trying to take some hit points and kill those Lings as the Zerg excuses him from the premises. Wondering what uThermal's going to go for in this game. I mean, at the moment, it just kind of looks like a 2-1-1. Got a reactor going down there, second barrack coming down, factory going down as well. Something that we've seen, of course, beyond just losing that last series against Dream. Something that he's brought back into popularity here in this matchup. Still, current year, 2021, we see this build at a bit of a dive here from uThermal. Those Reapers are kind of stuck in the main now.
Yeah, they're a little bruised as well. They will be able to outmaneuver the Zerglings, but they gotta stay away from the Queen until the second Reaper regenerates. uThermal and Kelasur, I want to say, and shout out to him as well for his own upset in this tournament so far. I think the two of them are my favorite Reaper controllers in the non-Korean scene. So I like that uThermal, went for the second Reaper, tried to see what he can do with that. Didn't pan out too well, but get some scouting information. Nothing out of the ordinary coming out from RagnaroK, though.
Indeed, and Stim starts here for uThermal, so the 2-1-1 is definitely underway. Feels like RagnaroK has very little information right now. He doesn't really have any spotter units that I can see them in up there, like the Overlord that is kind of just parked in front of the natural. Third CC going down here for uThermal, so it's the more modern version of the 2-1-1, where you don't just hit on 2 bases, you get your third down here as well. You delay your extra phases, your starport and whatnot. Oh, Reaper getting up in the main being a little bit annoying. It's just for a scout here.
Yeah, unable to snipe that creep tumor. He knows it as well. And that's both Reapers going down. Yeah, I mean, uThermal is going to be going for this 2-1-1 that you've mentioned, but he also didn't go Hellions as a result, right? And that means that the creep can get out of control. RagnaroK, identifying that he has taken out both Reapers, will get on it right away. And that is the scary part for uThermal, I think, is 2-1-1 is not very good at controlling the creep.
Certainly not. I mean, it can hit really, really hard, though. If you're not ready for it, it can actually just straight up win the game. So, of course, it is a very, very strong timing regardless. We do have the medevacs on the way here. Here comes RagnaroK's first confirmation of what's happening. Now he knows for sure. Sees a ton of Marines. And with the Baneling Nest coming up, RagnaroK's going to have to morph a few of those, I feel. His Queen count, not too bad at the moment. Sometimes you can just hold with Queens and Lings if you have enough together. But certainly some Banelings wouldn't go badly here for RagnaroK, just to make sure that his ability to erase those Marines is higher than normal.
Yes, indeed. RagnaroK has grown up quite comfortably, up to 50 now. He also has that Baneling Nest that you were mentioning in the front. So we'll see if uThermal is able to do anything as he now loads up both medevacs. He will get spotted right away, but that is just further confirmation, like for the third time on the side of RagnaroK, who has done a great job of spreading creep. And that's the scary thing, for me at least, is that uThermal is going to have to drop outside of the boundaries of creep and likely have to use a scan to try and contest that creep at all. Right, so if RagnaroK has his queens in position, if he has enough units, then the scan will not do much, but it seems like he does not, and uThermal will at least gain some ground.
Yeah, a lot of active creep tumors being picked off there. These creep tumors also don't require a scan to get picked off if uThermal goes for him, but RagnaroK with enough units to at least take the focus fire of the Marines away there for a second. Oh, uThermal turns and fires again, gets rid of all those fresh creep tumors, so still denying a bit of creep here on the outside, which is still looking relatively healthy for RagnaroK, to be fair, who has started +1 melee quite quickly along with Link Speed with that lair finishing up. Third base getting tickled there by that one Zergling, but nothing really consequential. uThermal still just posturing on the edge of the creep here with those Marines.
Yeah, he just wants to control it for a follow-up push, and that's exactly what he's doing. He's doing a great job of it. RagnaroK trying to get on top of these Marines, but uThermal has done a great job to have the medevacs behind the Marines. It's very easy to group the medevacs with the Marines and have them hovering on top of your Marines, and if that's the case, the Queens get to kind of nibble away at them. But in the way that he has executed this, both of his medevacs are full HP, and that allows him that much more longevity to stick out on the map.
And it feels like uThermal's kind of covered his bases literally and figuratively here, not rallying too much across the map. Link counterattacks, he's prepared for those. Although a little bit late on the draw on that army there, so the SCVs getting a few hit points off on those, rather the Ling's getting a few hit points off on those SCVs. uThermal's still just continuing to not allow RagnaroK to spread creep here in the push path. You know, uThermal's kind of flashing a red alarm sign for RagnaroK going, this is where I want to push.
Yeah, absolutely he is, and RagnaroK is very insisting on dropping creep in that location as well, and he should, because like you said, it is pretty much telegraphed. It's only a matter of when uThermal is going to be able to push out. His 1-1 is just about to finish, so we might see an attempt at a move out, but also Baneling Speed finishing on the side of RagnaroK, so it's not going to be easy by any means.
RagnaroK starting +2 attack immediately here. At the moment, RagnaroK relying almost solely on Ling Bane with a few queens to handle the anti-air as he drops the Infestation Pit. A very old style here from RagnaroK to just go straight mass Ling Bane and then up into Hive.
Yeah, very fancy. I kind of love it. We see this pretty often, the Ling Bane style, but more often than not, we see transitions into things like Hydras, Lurkers, and that might still be the case. But with an Infestation Pit this early, I think it's more likely that we see something like Ultras on the way. Yeah. Something like the continuation of those upgrades on the way for RagnaroK, and I'm excited for that. It's pretty cool. I'm not sure what uThermal's setup looks like. I'm not sure if he is going to be ready to, say, start producing a lot of Marauders on command, so we'll have to wait and see.
These Marines getting caught there by the Lings, of course. Nice pick-up macro there from uThermal, just trading against those Lings. Does have that second factory up, but it feels like he's kind of reading what's happening here from Solar. He sees not too much gas being mined there in the natural, and he is sort of feeling like, oh, that's a lot of Ling Bane, going to go straight in the Drilling Claws and start prioritizing Widowmine production. The cool thing about having those two factories, of course, means that if your opponent is going into Hydras and Lurkers, like you mentioned, which is definitely a lot more popular these days, you can have 2 tank production. uThermal stimming into this 4th hatchery here, or the 5th hatchery here, down at the 9 o'clock location. He's going to be able to pick it off. Nice to
Yeah, very nice. Very, very nice. Gains himself some ground as well for clearing creep. These Marines have to be a little bit careful. And yeah, I love what you said there. I think the tanks would be essential if there was Hydra or Lurker style, but just likewise, I suppose, you can go into mines very easily off of double factory against Ling Bane or Ling Bane Muta. And that is a very effective counter. Mines will do okay against Ultras. Again, I am going to continue to be scared for uThermal, but the Hive from RagnaroK was actually quite delayed on his own accord, right? The Infestation Pit has been done. It's just that he didn't start it in time. So that's something going on for uThermal.
Yeah, and RagnaroK's getting that extra macro hatchery up there. This is such a lava, as you know, Cats, like you have to use so much lava here to have the Ling Bane style work out for you because you just have so many units. uThermal was expecting Mutalisks here because he has been making Thors. So he's expecting Ling Bane Muta, but it is just Ling Bane purely here. And the Thor actually, weirdly enough, is not too bad there. It's actually a great soaking unit. If the Zerg isn't really on top of their control, it could just soak a lot of Banes. It has just a lot of frontline tanking ability. It's just an annoying Oh, the burrowed Banelings. I didn't even see them, Cats. Just detonated a ton of Marines here. Great play from RagnaroK.
Yeah, and uThermal actually running away from his mines. Ragnar recognizing that there's mines there will send just one circling and one baiting to detonate him, and now he has control of this game. I think that was nifty. Now uThermal is gonna have to be on the lookout for those burrow banelings if he can even defend this base. Luckily for him, the PF not yet morphed, so he is able to lift it up, and yeah, that's kind of a blessing in disguise.
uThermal sees the Baneling count here, and he decides not to try and chase and engage. The Widowmines did fire there a little inefficiently for uThermal, and now he's just on pure Widowmine production and going into Marauders and Concussive Shell as well, knowing that this is indeed going to be a hive style where very likely an Ultra Cavern's going to be coming up next year for RagnaroK to try and just capitalize on the fact that he's been putting so much money and time and effort into these melee upgrades. +3 on the way for that, by the way, and there's that Ultra Cavern. Oh man, uThermal, he's reading this though. He's got the right units on the way, but can he gain any ground here against the Zerg that's just got so much on the map?
Yes, indeed. 2 Liberators and a Marauder that you're alluding to are on the way. That he's going to need a lot more than that. Now 4 Marauders, so he has added the tech labs that he is going to need. A huge counterattack on the side of RagnaroK, but with these mines, it's going to be very difficult to break. uThermal manages to evacuate most of the mineral line. So, yeah, things will stabilize, Maynard, and this is looking like a game that could go the distance still.
Yeah, definitely. You know, RagnaroK's been in uThermal's face, definitely, but he hasn't actually been able to hit the army pretty hard for a little bit here. Oh, another massive burrowed Bane hit there from RagnaroK. There's that counterattack. I was like, he hasn't hit the army for a while, and then he's like, here you go, Maynard. There you go, right there. It's going to hit those Marines pretty hard. Still, though, as the dust settles, uThermal up 20 odds army supply, and his army's starting to get a lot better against this army comp of RagnaroK. He's getting more Marauders. Some of the Liberators are coming out as well. Planetary going to try and hold the line against the Lings. The Marines Marauders intercepting those Banelings, but who's intercepting who? Okay, looks like uThermal is indeed intercepting RagnaroK. He pushes back the Banes, keeps the Planetary alive.
Yeah, I really love what you said there because, you know, he loses a lot of Marines, but hey, who cares? He's nearly maxed, and as a result, he's going to have a better army to fight against what RagnaroK is ultimately going for with those Ultralisks. So uThermal, you know, in spite of taking 2 heavy hits to those Banelings and perhaps a little bit more here, no, it's actually going to be RagnaroK kind of wasting away a lot of units. Yeah, that's expensive.
So, going for the mine drag here on that front line of the Terran. More mines where that came from. Some Marauders coming in as well. Still feels like a huge swarm of Zerg, though. I don't know if uThermal can actually break this position, even though the start is good. That is so many Banelings, Cats. Oh, boy.
Yeah, it really is a lot. It's about trading effectively and efficiently for uThermal. He's going to kite back and going to be forced to retreat on his medevacs. Where is the rest of his army? He certainly has much more than this. He's nearly maxed, but I don't know where it is. Liberators now being produced. A lot of the problem with this type of composition as well is that a lot of the time you have those mines scattered. This planetary fortress will suffer a gruesome death to those Banelings, but luckily for uThermal, he has a command center nearly completed just right next to it.
Yeah, he's got that Martha Stewart command center that he prepared earlier to come back and try and retake that position. Spire is going down for RagnaroK, and that's a necessity, even though like the Ling Banes and Ultras have been finding a lot of damage for him. Eventually, he will have to deal with these Liberators with something a little bit more convincing than just Queens, and that means usually Corruptors here. Of course, you could threaten Muta Switches and all that sort of tricky business, but not going to get that far ahead. Nice position here for uThermal, once again threatening the 12 o'clock base here of RagnaroK. This time a little bit more Marauder heavy. Those 2 Liberators still also threatening those Ultras. Not as many of the Banelings this time from RagnaroK.
Yeah, those Liberators really are king. A big counterattack onto that mineral line from RagnaroK. But yeah, that is the reason he's getting a Spire. He's going to need Corruptors if uThermal continues to smarten up and continue to produce those Liberators, which he very much is. So he's going to continue to poke on forward. He has to be careful. His army is kind of measly at the front here. A lot of medevacs, but not much to heal on the ground.
Yeah, and he's on creep as well, so that makes it even easier for RagnaroK. This base being kind of nibbled again by these Lings, and Planetary is not ready yet, so he can't fight back, forcing out a scan even. Just one less mule, of course, for uThermal. Just a little bit of annoying play there from RagnaroK, as he still maintains a supply lead, but because RagnaroK's been trading so many units, he doesn't really have what a Zerg would have at this point as far as bank is concerned. He's been very, very, very sort of like treating his army as an expendable part of his infrastructure. He's just throwing it at the Terran. Look at the trades. Very, very bad trades there for RagnaroK, but he may still win the game by just continuing to keep the Terran pressured to pieces while just completely absorbing his side of the map.
Yeah, we see his strategy unfold. It's very clear, and that's exactly what he's doing here. He's gonna get a lot of SCVs here at this base. I'm not sure if uThermal is gonna be looking to remake those. He starts one SCV at a time, so maybe not too interested in remaking all of those. Maybe he's looking for a bigger army. RagnaroK, what worries me about his unit composition is that he hasn't really been transitioning into something a little bit more substantial, like say Broodlords, or even having like an Infestor or two for support to make sure that your Banelings connect, to make sure that your Ultras connect, or at least to force the army of uThermal to be pre-split so that you can punish it otherwise, right? So on the side of uThermal, I mean, I like his army comp, I like what he's doing, but he's taking a little bit too much damage to these pokes.
Yeah, these Ling counterattacks are really kind of taking the wind out of his sails here. He doesn't have a whole lot of income anymore. The income is hugely in RagnaroK's favor, so even though he has been training inefficiently, he's got money to burn for days. He's lighting cigars with $100 bills out there with Benjamins. We've got a big Ling counterattack here, and that for Marine Force is just not enough, and that is going to be that. RagnaroK taking a very nice game one there.
Yeah, very, very well done by him. I mean, uThermal had a couple of really cool moments in there, and a few cool sieges, right? Like cool positional play, good army compositions, just not able to keep up, not able to spot those counterattacks. I would have loved a bunker at that third base that got hit like 4 times or something like that. So I'm sure we'll see some adjustments from the Dutch Terran here on game 2, but pretty cool game 1 to start.
Yeah, no doubt. Very action-packed. I really like that sort of, high trade, very sort of aggressive style that RagnaroK goes for. Solo that's in the round of 24. He's a guy that kind of popularized that style. I feel like even 2 years ago, it's a very old-school way of just going straight mass Ling Bane and then just basically gobbling up the Terran because your side of the map cannot really be touched. You've got too many Lings and Banes to break. It is a little bit of an older style, and maybe uThermal didn't expect it. You could see that he was definitely expecting Spire at one point in that game as he started to make Thors. But of course, it was all about the ground army, all about the ground pound for RagnaroK. And yeah, we are not too far away from game number 2 here. Do we throw to James and the boys here, or are we going into game number 2? I have to ask straight up. All right. We're going to go straight into the next map then. I'm pleased to hear it because I'm feeling the energy, I'm feeling the momentum from the series. Getting straight into game 2 sounds good to me.
Yeah, it's a little bit like fur code, that style, right? Like it's kind of a thing of the past, but it's making a comeback, or at least that's the word on the streets.
I mean, a lot of people would say that my hairstyle is straight out of the 90s and that I should get a haircut. But I don't care. I'm bringing dreads back as well.
Let's do it. Let's do it one step at a time. We'll set the meta here, Maynard. But
the style meta with my meme T-shirt. By the way, this is from Pig's shop. By the way, this isn't just my design. I can't take full credit for this shirt. This is actually a Pig T-shirt, who is lovely and part of this broadcast as well. I think he's going to be joining us very, very soon. I don't know about today, but actually didn't see the rosters. I kind of just looked when I'm on, just very selfishly, to make sure that I'm awake, because I don't know if you guys know at home, but for Australians, it might be, like 5 p.m. if you're Central Europe out there. In fact, it even got the clock on the screen right now, so I can cheat. It's about 5 p.m. over in Europe. And it's, it's pretty early still on the West Coast for you cats, but
8 a.m., yeah.
For Australians, we're approaching 3 a.m. here, just over 3 a.m. on the East Coast, which means that this tournament's going to keep going until the sun comes up here in our land down under.
Yeah, I was on the opposite end. Had to wake up at something like 2 a.m. today. But here we are at 8. And yeah, I'm feeling a lot more energetic than 6 hours ago, certainly. And especially with such great games, so many upsets already to speak of. I think a lot of these players are just bringing new things, bringing their practice to, the most important tournament. And it's a stack tournament, and it's a large tournament, right? Like there's a lot of these players that are here that are ready to make names for themselves. RagnaroK is one of them. And that was an impressive game 1. uThermal, we're going to have to make some adjustments, Maynard. What's the play here? Mech?
I feel like the 2-1-1 or Mech is a big call. I mean, it feels like it's kind of falling out of style a bit, but I am with you. uThermal does Mech from time to time. I feel like he Mechs a little bit more in TVT rather than TVZ, though.
I've seen him in TVZ even.
Even in yeah, exactly. Like there's a very heavy tank style as well. Some, TY kind of showed the way for Terrans and TVP. It can be done. It is very niche, very difficult. He seems to actually sometimes like BC builds and that sort of thing.
I love those.
That's kind of fallen out of fashion a little bit, but I like to see him bring those back. Well, in the bottom right here, currently up in the series, this is Alpha X's RagnaroK.
And in the top left-hand side of Romanticide, it is uThermal.
A little bit. As a do have the maker of this map is a metal fan. We do have certain death metal groups getting their song names as maps these days. RagnaroK actually, yeah. It's named after a song. The RagnaroK is very much respecting the opening of uThermal here, or just Terrans in general. Obviously, he's going to be hitting a lot of Terrans on the Korean ladder, and we even saw it in game one. Didn't really bring it up, but he broke off a drone really early to look for the proxy racks as well. So he's like, all right, I'm gonna have one less drone mining, but at least the Terran's not gonna get some cheeky Marines on me.
Yeah, and I think it's a good play, especially for uThermal. We've seen uThermal do things like take games from Cyril by doing exactly this, right? Like when you're behind, especially if you don't feel like you're the better player, it's very easy to take a gamble and see if you can get an easy win to try and carry that momentum forward, to try and focus on one single game instead of having the burden of having to win twice. But I think uThermal doesn't feel like the underdog here. I think he has to feel like his chances are at least about even with RagnaroK, and so we're not going to see any shenanigans from him.
Yeah, it is pretty normal here. Just the Reaper fast expand from uThermal so far. Of course, from here, you can go a lot of different ways. You can go 2-on-1 again. You can go for the 1-1-1. You can hide BCs, that kind of thing in this build, where you sort of hide the fusion core and try and go for the big tier 3 battleships while you get your ground army up behind it. And we do have the Reaper coming across the map here for uThermal, flying straight over the Intel Extreme Masters banner there. Good branding. Well done, uThermal. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, and not a second Reaper this time around, and that's going to give him the gas to drop that factory a little bit earlier, so it's likely that we see Hellions. I'm a little bit surprised, not because Hellions isn't the most common build, but the fact that he's going for Hellions on this map and not the previous map, because this map, it's a little bit harder than most maps to deny creep on, just for the simple fact that there is ramps leading into the main and into the natural. There's just ramps everywhere, really. It's a really choky map, so Hellions are going to struggle to go up those ramps and really contain creep. So we'll see what uThermal has in store here. RagnaroK has not taken a third yet, which is a little bit surprising, and will actually be looking to take the forward third.
Yeah, and already for uThermal, you got to be a little bit worried here with the Reaper if you don't see a third. It's 3 minutes in. Because it's usually you get it like 2.5 here for the Zerg, so the Reaper is going to try and get into the main and just make sure there's no Roach Warren or something like that here from RagnaroK. Obviously, he doesn't know about the forward third just yet.
Yes, indeed. And it's a little bit strange for me because in Korea, most people take this third, and I think you know that better than I. But in Europe, there is a trend, or there was a trend, at least for a while, where Lambo first, then Elaser, and then Cyril all started taking that forward third anyway. So I wonder if it is the right choice for uThermal to even deny the other third and force this third, which gives the Zerg a little bit more of an open map and a little bit easier of a creep spread potential forward, right? So not sure.
Now, Cats, I'm seeing multiple Marauders being made here from uThermal.
Oh, nifty.
I'm wondering if we're going to see that armory go down and maybe a medevac next. Oh, baby! TY builds, we were talking about that a little bit earlier, and there it is. We're going to have the Marauder slow Hellbat attack here from uThermal. Another old school style, and not something that RagnaroK's going to be able to scout because of the Marine and the Viking denying the vision here of the Zerg. Ooh, I love it. See, both these players really can be so tricky and so sneaky. And Mark Schlappy's going to try and bring the slippery and schlattery builds here for RagnaroK. It's a tough one to scout, and it's a very tough one to hold if you don't know what's coming.
Yeah, I mean, on RagnaroK's side, at least he has the Baneling Nest at a very good timing. So if he smells a whiff of this, he should start morphing those Banelings, and that is the hard counter to the Hellbats. So I'm a little bit worried for uThermal, but like you said, that Viking was so beautiful because RagnaroK doesn't see anything moving out. Now he sees 4 Hellions moving out, but that's not really much of a tell of anything. Yet still, he does smell something. He is going to start morphing 4 Banelings and starts a Spine right away as well. Let's see what uThermal can do.
Yeah, he's gotten wind of it now, of course. Spinecrawler going to be important here. The medevac ferrying those Marauders first class rather to the front line. Baneling's coming in, but uThermal splitting good enough here. Takes some damage on the Hellbats, but he's still got plenty left over for these Lings and these Queens. This is looking bad for RagnaroK.
Oh, those 2 Banelings, though, doing a lot of damage to 3 of those Hellbats. I'm not sure if uThermal wants to continue to push on the issue onto those Queens, or if he should just settle for the third. It looks like he wants the Queens, and that's a gutsy play, a gutsy maneuver, but it could very well pay off. In this position, if he can continue to get this position and intercept basically reinforcements, he could just end the game here.
Yeah, very much so. This can actually just kill people. It is such a strong timing, and RagnaroK is bleeding in Ling. Small clusters here into the Hellbats, which is a dream scenario for the Terran. Medevac about to be out of energy, but it feels like a lot of the damage is done. RagnaroK's drones trying to run here, trying to just sort of refugee out of the side of the map. There's nowhere for them to go there, nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. The Spinecrawler comes forward, but is targeted down and killed by those Marauders immediately there. And more Lings coming on in. These Hellbats very, very low. Oh, reinforcement Hellions coming from the backside. All right, the Banelings.
Very, very well done.
Yeah, RagnaroK does get the cleanup in the end, of course, but uThermal's going to continue to trade as well as he can here at the front.
Yes, indeed. There is still these Hellions, and I mean, the more these Hellions survive, the more units that RagnaroK has to continue to make. Those are not drones. uThermal already with a 3-worker advantage. That is a great position to sit in as a Terran player in this stage. So even though he doesn't kill RagnaroK, and RagnaroK is smiling for some reason, it's not a good smile. It's a smile of I'm dying inside.
And so it's one of those things where the whole room's on fire, and you're like, all you can do is laugh at this point. You know, what am I going to do? Yeah, I just get upset about it. But yeah, at the moment, it's safe to say that the Terran's in a pretty comfortable spot here. Third base flying out. He's a few workers ahead of the Zerg. While the Zerg does have a few more units on the map, there's not a whole lot you can do for counterattack here. You know, maybe you can slow down the third if you got a few Lings spare, but it doesn't look like a ton of units left over for RagnaroK. It's mainly Queens.
Yeah, and it's not that many Queens because a lot of them fall, so that's going to tax him in other areas as well, right? There's not going to be as good of a creep spread as he would have liked. He's still remaking Queens. The injects might suffer a little bit, especially if he chooses to continue to keep those 3 Queens that he did have at the front. So, yeah, I think things looking better than the supply might tell for uThermal at this stage in the game. He just has to keep up the momentum because I want to see a Game 3, Maynard.
Absolutely, and at the moment if he keeps up this kind of pressure and he keeps up this kind of level, I'm sure he could probably get there. Of course, RagnaroK is very, very far from dead, although I would argue still quite behind. Gets that +1 Carapace on the way here, +1 melee's been done for a bit for these Lings, and Alair is just about to finish up. So I think that RagnaroK once again is going to be going for +2 melee and just trying that very swarmy Lingbane style again, just like game 1, because he's kind of lined up for it. It all makes sense. Marine stimming in on the left side. Those Queens not really with any support here, so one does go down. Nice hot pick up there from uThermal.
Yeah, very, very well done. Just expertly picks up those Marines, and they're going to look for a 4th base. It's on the other side, but uThermal's going to check this one, which is perhaps the more common. He's going to have to settle for clearing some creep, and this is going to give him a stage to siege further. And later in the game, perhaps with those tanks that he is starting to produce, that position can be extremely annoying, and maybe that is part of why RagnaroK has been forfeiting that whole position. Yeah,
he's just taking the edge of the map like a lot of Zergs tend to do on other maps, but just feels so, I guess, a little bit uncomfortable for your third hatchery to just be that little bit closer to the Terran, a little bit easier to push. There is creep spread at the front here for RagnaroK, no doubt, but uThermal's going to cut through it like a hot knife through butter on his way to that third hatchery. He really wants to push straight up the middle of this map here. And those tanks are a big problem for RagnaroK.
Yeah, at the same time, RagnaroK did a beautiful job. We were seeing it on screen. He was clearing those rocks. Those rocks are extremely annoying for Zerg to deal with, especially against tanks, because they provide a barrier that the Lings have to go around, and then you're taking free damage. Without those rocks, it's going to be a little bit easier for RagnaroK, but I hear your because that was a big waste of Lings.
Yeah, I love Ling counterattacks, of course. A lot of Zergs are really good at it these days, but uThermal's reinforcements way too much for those Lings, and he minces them to pieces. Another attempt at a run by the Marines actually don't block too well here, so some SCVs need to pull to try and stymie the flow of Lings. They do break in, they are in, they're potentially going to get a tank here and some workers, but do these Banelings have the ability to hold the Terran push? Baneling speed is finished for RagnaroK.
Yeah, for the time being, it looks like the answer is going to be yes. And yeah, what happened there with the supply depot, Terran players want to rally to their supply depot oftentimes so that they create an artificial choke without necessarily trapping their army inside. So it could have been a little bit better for uThermal if a couple more Marines had spawned in time. A good choke for those Marines to hold here are going to make it so that the rest of his army can reinforce and push the Lings of RagnaroK back. But at the front, uThermal doesn't have that much, and if he is not quick to reinforce, RagnaroK is going to get a very comfortable clean, and that's going to be bad for uThermal. So uThermal needs to get the rest of his army here.
I think he can too. He's just got such a massive army advantage, and he really doesn't want this to go to Hive Tech again and have to play Tier 3 Zerg one more time in this game, considering he has such a lead in the mid game. Why not try and break through and win here? Oh, big Ling Bane counterattack. That's a lot of speed Banes here for RagnaroK, but he's way off creep, and those are Banelings not being used to defend here.
Yeah, those are scary situations because if you are 1 second later to pay attention to that, all of your army could get wiped and that would have been a hard restart for uThermal. However, knowing that uThermal's army is not all here, RagnaroK is venturing out of creep. However, uThermal still, I think, enough. He's gonna kite backwards on a flank, but that's not gonna be enough for RagnaroK, and uThermal now commanding Maynard.
Yeah, RagnaroK was like, okay, I think I've got this, and then he didn't realize how deep the Terran rabbit hole went. There's so many Marines, so many big reinforcements. He's got the Burrowed Banes again, hoping for that big detonation, but uThermal is skirting the edge of those Banelings, and he is on the front doorstep of Hero RagnaroK, where the focus needs to be. That's just too much Terran Cats. GG, Mark Schlappy, uThermal tying up the series.
Not even a smile. He is out for blood.
Yeah, he is out for blood indeed. And just like a shark, he smelled it in the water and he went for the kill. Well done there from uThermal. He smelled weakness. He's like, okay, I can break the back of this Zerg. Just got to rally. Don't lose anything to those Link counterattacks. Consolidate the forces. Hit with that 2-2 and Terry's face off and take that win. So game 3, of course, is going to be around the corner. We're going to take a short break, guys. When we return, the final map of the series. We'll see you then. G'day mates, welcome back to the Intel Extreme Masters Katowice here, 2021, the World Final. We're in our third game here of our second best of three. Now you know what, we've selected some bangers here, cats, out of all the series we could have cast. Apparently it's action all over the place. Obviously there's 3 streams to be watching. We've got Creighton, Olsen and Grant on the B, we've got Harstam on the C as well, so do not miss it. And of course you are watching mainstream here with the rapper Paolo, Mac Daddy, Cats, Viscara, and myself, Maynard, who's just some dude from Australia. We're going to get into Game 3 here very shortly. Cats, you enjoying yourself, man?
With Raynor earlier too, so that's really a fun alternative in between. But we've had crazy games.
Cast.
Yes, indeed. And crazy upsets, and this series, I mean, taking us all the way. I think that it's more or less what we would have expected. These two are very evenly matched. They are kind of mirrors of each other in their different regions. And yeah, we'll see who stands strong as we are loaded into the game now. And spawning in the top right-hand side for Alpha X, it is the third player, RagnaroK.
Ragnar and rolling into this game here. And let's see how he does this against this fine gentleman in the bottom left here for the Netherlands from Team Liquid. He is uThermal. A little tilted that he hasn't got the Team Liquid blue. Been given the RagnaroK here, but that's okay. You know, I'll allow it this one time. Plenty of Team Liquid players, of course.
All over.
Yeah, they're all over the shop, commentating even. All right, well, that's once again RagnaroK showing that he really just doesn't want to be 3-rexed. He's like, that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, and I doubt that uThermal would do it, especially seeing as how dominant he looked in Game 2. He is not going to be taking any risks, as we can see. So this is just a little bit of a wasted investment and feels a little bit bad if you're RagnaroK and you don't find anything, right? You would have rather just taken the risk, and that's going to sting a little bit. That said, though, this at the very start was seen as a predominantly Zerg map because the third base on the low ground is very, very wide open, and it is kind of a large map. But as time has proven, it's not so much Zerg favored. There is a lot of features that Terran players can take advantage of, especially with tank pushes and onto the triangle third, where there is usually a little bit less creep. It's a little bit more difficult to spread creep up that far and into that high ground, but Terrans will usually take that as their third, as a tank on the high ground will provide them plenty of shelter. So we'll see how this game unfolds. For the time being, as normal as it could be.
I'm with you on that one. This is a map that I feel Terrans will pick in TVZ sometimes in series. If they have like a loser's pick, they'll try and get this one in that series. This map and Oxide, like 2 maps that Terran really like to sort of push on against Zerg. A lovely couple of positions here, like where the Reaper is showing us here on this high ground, where you can just sort of hold for days, it feels like, with tanks and having just a bunch of units off creep as you sort of try and get into that sweet spot, like the natural, between the natural and the third base of the Zerg. If you can get into that position, you just really cut off the lifeline almost of the Zerg, if you can get down there. But easier said than done, as uThermal is, once again, going for more of a 1-1-1 opener versus Game 1, where he tried out the 2-1-1, and it didn't quite fit.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I doubt that he's going to go again for something like the Hellbats. It is the type of aggressive opener that probably doesn't work 2 games in a row, right? Like your opponent will take it a little bit more seriously, maybe start that Spine a little bit earlier, maybe start a few more Banelings a little bit earlier. However, if you are in uThermal's shoes, having shown that you are capable of doing a build order like that, and that it got you a win, you can play the mind games, right? Like you can pretend like maybe there is something of that nature going on. He is not going to be able to deny the third further, and there is a Starper. Do you think we might see something like BCs?
I mean, I would love it. Usually the sign of BCs is if there's more than 1 Marine. So if you make like 2 Marines out of this barracks, then I would say, you know what, you might be onto something. But I think at this point, it's going to be a little bit more of a ho-hum opener. Although uThermal, like we're talking about his YouTube again, he does have this one guide where you try and go for like a little bit more so that Reaper Hellion start. It usually opens with a reactive first on the barracks though, so this is definitely not that, but you do go BC behind it. I don't think uThermal will do it in this game. I would love it, but I think uThermal may be feeling a little bit of the pressure, and he's like, you know what, I don't want to meme too much here in this series. I already got away with a pretty cheeky build in Game 2, and yes, indeed, he's actually going for one of the more safer openings here with the Banshee and the Hellions. Hasn't started Cloak just yet. And I don't know if there's going to be one of those Banshee armory pushes, but it just feels like he's trying to play super safe here against RagnaroK, who is at the moment getting 2 Baneling Nests.
Oh, wow. And that spells nerves for me. And it spells confidence for uThermal on his side, right? Like, if I look at this game and just try to read into what the players are doing, I gotta feel good for uThermal just because he feels like he can get away with just getting a Banshee. Now he's starting the Cloak, but it's exactly what you said. I mean, that was a Banshee that was made in case there was roaches crossing the map, right? It's not a Banshee that was made to try and kill his opponent. Now the Overlord is gonna spot the upgrade here on that starport, so he will catch wind of the potential for a Banshee.
It's the Hellbat Banshee attack, another old school style here, even older than that sort of TY Medevac Concussive Shell Marauder push. Oh man, this is... I mean, he definitely has a Baneling Nest, Cats. There's 2 of them right next to each other in the natural, so that's a good thing to have to try and hold this push. But of course, you do need to worry about the undetected high DPS flying units here, and that's where the Queens of the Spores will have to come in, because that lair is a minute away from being done.
Yeah, the Hellbats are gonna get on top of those Queens and try to do something back. Oh, hey, those Hellions are not supposed to be surrounded like this. That's a huge loss at this stage in the game.
uThermal space. He just goes for the, similar to the grin from RagnaroK. I mean, what else can you do but smile when everything goes wrong to start off your plan here in game number 3? And again, this is game 3 here. The winner of this map moves on in the winner's bracket, wins a bit more cash. The loser will have to go down the loser's bracket and have only 1 life remaining. Very, very dicey. I mean, he does still have a lot of Hellions here. The push may still catch RagnaroK with his pants down. It's not over yet.
That is very true, and RagnaroK might have felt like he can drone up, and he is droning up very aggressively after killing those 3 Hellions, so that could be a blessing in disguise from uThermal, that million IQ play, and there's a Spore here, but it's a little bit out of position to deal with the Banshee too effectively. 1 Hex to the left might have done better. Here come the Hellbats. There's 4 Banelings morphing, but they're not here yet.
Yeah, in fact, the 7 Banelings morphing are just to the north side here. The Banshee's busy with that Queen in the natural, taking a few more drones down. By a few more, I mean a lot more. 7 drones going down, not too bad at all for these Banshees, who can actually join up with the Hellbats or even just cut off reinforcements here in the main base of the Zerg. The Hellbats actually pulling back off creep here. uThermal just saying, nope, canceling this push. We're going to pull all the way back. I'm not confident enough this is going to work. Strangely enough, I feel like it may have worked. If he realized where the Banelings were, brought the Banshees over, I think it actually could have worked. But of course, we have ultimate information. He does not, so he's going for the disengage there and trying to play this one out.
Yeah, at the same time, I feel like to some degree it did work. It did force out units from the side of RagnaroK, and he killed the 7 workers with those Banshees, managed to keep the Banshees alive as well. So not a terrible position for uThermal. However, Mutas could be very, very scary, and my god, has he made Hellions.
He's got a handle left, that's for damn sure. And I mean, that's something that could be useful later on in the game as well. You join up with your Marines, with Stim, with your upgrades, and a couple of Medevacs, and you got a bunch of Hellbats with your army. I mean, that is an anti-Ling force if I've ever seen one. Scans there in the natural, misses the Spire though, which is over at the 3rd hatchery.
A 9 Muta. This is a very scary prospect. There isn't a Thor on the way. There's in fact tanks, double Marauder production. This is not what you want against Mutas. uThermal has made a turret here and there, so he's not gonna outright die to this, but the Muta should give RagnaroK a lot of map control, and it should lock things defensively against these Hellions. At least they reveal themselves early enough that uThermal's not gonna lose too much.
Exactly what I was going to bring up there, Cats, is that seeing the Mutas on this side of the map is actually a blessing for uThermal. While those Hellions will die for free, that means he's got time to get up turrets back at home and adjust his production to deal with Mutas. Usually that means, of course, like a second factory joined towards Widow Mines, switching your add-ons, that kind of thing. At the moment, he is still going to have a 1-1 ball of bio, which is something that the Mutas will not want to engage into, and those Hellions still so many remaining.
Yeah, I loved what uThermal was going for there. I mean, he spotted the Mutas on the left-hand side of the map and moved with his Hellions towards the right, and that could have been that could have worked wonders for him, but RagnaroK was too good and he had 1 Ling spotting. Regardless, this is going to be a huge push, but there is so many Banelings already, Maynard. I'm not sure that uThermal is going to be able to do much here.
26 Banes with more on the way here. Baneling speed done. Good splits from uThermal. Very nicely done. Great control. And of course, the bulk of his forces still at the back line. Oh, RagnaroK with a huge counterattack, though. That 3rd base is curtains, man. There's no way he's going to hold down to that.
Yeah, at least he saves most of the SCVs, but the same can be said for the drones at the 4th base of RagnaroK. RagnaroK already working on another 4th base, so he is happy to lose this one in so long as he can kill the 3rd from uThermal. That is much more important. uThermal's gonna pull a lot of SCVs.
Oh, mass repair! Mass repair!
Oh, it's huge! All right,
he
saves it.
Clutch from uThermal.
Jeez.
Holding the 3rd and getting a couple mutas there on the retreat. Of course, he did take a lot of damage, but he keeps it alive. And RagnaroK trying to stay alive here on the front line as well, trying to set up a flank with the Banelings trying to come in from multiple angles. The first flank hits a little bit early. The Marines trying to find an angle where they're safe from Zerg units, but there's nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. There's creep absolutely everywhere. uThermal's army gets deflected on the front, but he did take a hatchery down. And as it stands, both players are about to disengage and just resume their macro.
Yes, indeed. It seems like RagnaroK has taken a slightly better set of engagements, but like you said, I mean, uThermal did get some damage done, and that save on the CC, I mean, that was as well, you know, he saved the game with that save. So he is going to have a little bit more fuel to continue to go on here and try to make something happen. Adding Marauders, I kind of love this, just because of the sheer number of Banelings that RagnaroK is making. It's something that that is very easy to not do, right? It's like, what do the Marauders do? They suck against Lings. They obviously suck against Muta. So they're just there to you know, soak up Baneling shots, to put him in the front. And it's a thing that's difficult to do, but I think that uThermal can very well do.
Yeah, this game, definitely an edge to RagnaroK right now. I agree with you there. This Banshee from earlier is coming back and trying to get some more damage done. She's already gotten 16 kills, looking for more. That's a bloodthirsty Banshee right there. Muta's potentially going to pick off an exposed tank on the outside there. Oh, does get it. Nice.
Yeah, very nice. I would love to see Thors being added here on the side of uThermal. This Banshee might end up going down pretty soon here, as it's going to have to be tucked in the corner. The Muta still doing everything that they can, and these medevacs, they cannot be afforded to die. So, all right, the pullback is there. Only one medevac goes down, and now this is a huge push from uThermal. The creep spread for RagnaroK not particularly good, so that is a good thing for the Dutchman.
And while it feels weird to be making Marauders against Lingbane Muta so early here for uThermal, it actually strengthens this push quite a bit here with 2-2. He's created a full wall off, but the Banelings bust it wide open. This counterattack of RagnaroK is going to find a ton of damage, especially with the Mutas coming in as well. But uThermal's counter push, I think both players are about to take a ton of damage here.
Yes, indeed. uThermal is going to have to be looking for a kill. Doesn't raise the supply depots. That would have actually been huge. It would have forced a lot of those Banelings to be spent there, but uThermal is, of course, focusing on the frontal attack, and it's hard to blame him. If he can get rid of those Muta, if he can get his units rallied to a turret in the middle line, I think uThermal can still hold this without too many losses. It's just a matter of, can he kill his opponent on the other side? It's looking difficult.
Muta stacking up here a little bit. The Liberators do a little bit of damage. They technically have anti-air damage. It does a little bit. He's buying time to try and get the store out. It's very close to coming out. Oh, Baneling's coming into a well-split force of bio there from uThermal. He continues to press the gas pedal here in the natural. Seems like so much Ling Bane. Can uThermal split against it?
Yeah, he's gonna have to. Here it comes. I mean, if uThermal, it's not just
not bad.
It's not bad. It's great, in fact. Amazing splits, but he's taking too many losses. I think that RagnaroK has such a strong economy on the back of the damage that he just did, and most of the army of uThermal is now medevacs. So this is not what the Dutchman wants. He is now trailing over 50 supply, and it's looking more and more difficult.
Yeah, these medevacs aren't one I think of when I think of the Flying Dutchman. This is not great here for uThermal. There's 3 Marines and this single medevac are his only presence on the Zerg side of the map, and he is losing more medevacs in the return here, which kind of takes a lot of the longevity and the push potential out of his returning bio units from his production facilities. So while uThermal still has 3 bases, 55 workers, he's up against an 88 worker Zerg with 4 bases saturated. It's so hard for the Terran to find the angle here. I mean, if you're up in army supply, maybe another push in a few seconds could try and do something against RagnaroK, who doesn't have a whole lot in the bank, but it's just not there for uThermal. So he's going to need some really incredible fights and not take any more damage from the Zerg here in this game.
Yeah, I love the fact that he started to add Widow Mines now. He needs something like that. He needs huge Widow Mine shots to blow up, you know, units. 20 Banelings. Exactly. So units that can pay for themselves and that are kind of risky, right? They may not do much. They may not do anything. They may just kill one Zergling, but they also have the potential to kill everything, right? To kill a clump of Banelings that puts uThermal back on the map. And that's exactly what he needs to look for here. So more Widow Mines, more bio being produced. Liberator production stalled. It really wasn't doing that much. I like the Thor as well. I think that the army composition for uThermal is evolving to where he can trade effectively against what RagnaroK has. Is it too late though? does RagnaroK have too much of it?
I think so. I mean, it looks like a lot of Lings here. The Baneling's kind of lagging behind. They're on the way.
Mines
the
are
Ling
not
count
burrowed.
is just so high. Yeah, the mines aren't burrowed. He's got one here, which could get a cluster of Banelings. No, it dies before it actually shoots its shot. That's too much from RagnaroK. uThermal at Valiant Series, but not well enough there. RagnaroK takes the victory